We move on?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll call to order the Planning Commission meeting for June 28th. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Chair Lowe,
Here.
Vice Chair Quilty,
Here.
Commissioner Andrade, absent. Commissioner DeBolt,
Here.
Commissioner Gross,
Here.
Commissioner Sofokanik, absent. Commissioner Zelmer.
Present.
May we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll move to oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience may address the Planning Commission and speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Please state if you would wish to speak on any item on the agenda. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes. Anybody would like to speak at this time at oral communications? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Are there any consent calendar items? I don't think so.
Approved in the minutes.
Sorry, oh, approval of minutes, sorry. Thank you. So at this time, item A, the approval of the minutes from the March 22nd and 24th meeting. Should we do them together?
I need to recuse myself on that
Okay.
one. I was absent for the
Okay, let's just do one at a time, then
May
we'll do,
24 meeting.
perfect. Let's start with the March 22nd, 2022 minutes. Anybody have any comments or entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for the March 22nd. Did you get that motion from? Okay, perfect. It was softly spoken, so I don't know if she
Oh,
heard you
sorry.
or not. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. And now the May 24th, 2022 minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll abstain. I was not present.
Cool. So, no public hearing items, no discussion items. We'll move on to item A, which is staff report. So I will turn it over to the staff. Want to do an introduction for it? Anybody?
Yes, sir. So good evening, Mr. Lowe and members of the commission. I just wanted to say thank you for being here tonight, and I'll go ahead and kick it off to Tom Oliver in just a minute. But the discussion item for today will be related to, at Mr. Zelmer's request, discussion of noise source hours for property maintenance, et cetera, specifically on weekends and holidays. So I'll go ahead and kick it off to our planner, Mr. Tom Oliver.
Chair Lowe and members of the Planning Commission, during Commissioner comments last month, May 24th, 2023, the Planning Commission was asked by Commissioner Zelmer if we could, if the Planning Commission could address the prohibition of noise-making activities in Los Alamitos on Saturdays and holidays, as far as at your home, working on your lawn or doing hobbies and things like that. I put weekends and holidays in your staff report, but I meant actually Saturday, and holidays is when it is right now. And so this agenda item is a discussion of noise sources and hours for property maintenance on Sundays and holidays. I'm sorry, I said Saturday again. I realize that you have probably read the code before, but if you would like for me to read it later on, let me know, and I have that here. Staff cannot locate a time when this particular code section was discussed by the Planning Commission or the City Council at any time in the past. It's basically a kind of a cut and paste code from other cities is what it is. And Aside from the question of whether municipal codes should be changed concerning homeowners working outside their homes on weekends and holidays, staff suggests that the commissioner discussion also include whether or not consideration should be made for other noise prohibitions as well. The noise section of our code is longer than just this little section. So if you'd like to discuss those other things as well, let me know. And if you decide that you would like staff to write a resolution at the end of this day, you would ask us to come back next month with a resolution, and we would notice it in the paper and all that stuff. This is not noticed in the paper, but it is a discussion thing that had to be agendized. So I think that about covers it. And you'll see in your staff report, we had 5 different cities that we pulled their code on this same issue. They're basically the same in nearly all of them. So if you have any questions about any of these cities, let me know. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioners, like, anybody want to talk about it?
Yep. You know, I looking at this, it's interesting because the current code talks about noise sources associated with maintenance of real property and associated with construction, repair, remodeling, and grading, and differentiates the two. It's a little bit hard for me to decipher a little bit, only because I am thinking of particular situations in which, you know, maintenance of real property, especially if you're doing it yourself, might also include construction, repair, or remodeling or grading. You know, fixing a fence is a repair work, but it's also maintenance to your property. I understand that purpose of this is probably not to necessarily limit a homeowner from doing work on his or her own property, but rather having a construction crew come in and, you know, banging nails or repairing a roof. And it would be my suggestion to put in some additional exemptions for homeowners to be able to utilize their own time on weekends to be able to do construction repair as regular maintenance on their real property, or even improvement on their property. Not necessarily, maybe you could set some limitations as to the times, you know, really narrow the scope, you know, between 10 and 5 on Sundays, something like that, I would suggest. But I do believe this is, you know, really designed, you know, so you don't have, you know, huge crews of people coming in on a Sunday and disturbing somebody's weekend. I think there is room here to make some additional exemptions, and I would like that to be discussed a little bit further, or possibly made into a resolution.
Any other?
Chair Lowe, if I could just offer one small clarification perhaps to help with the conversation. What we're discussing here are exemptions from essentially the exterior noise standards imposed by the code. So I just want to make it clear that the code is not saying, for example, that a homeowner or a construction crew are absolutely prohibited from conducting activities during these timeframes. What it's saying is that outside of these specified timeframes, they're not allowed to exceed the exterior noise standards specified by the code. So the exemptions, in essence, are carve out for things like construction activities that may generally exceed noise standards. But to the extent a homeowner is conducting a more limited home improvement project or some sort of maintenance activity on their property, this is not saying that that activity is absolutely prohibited on a Sunday. What it's saying is that to the extent you're going to do that activity, you have to comply with the city's exterior noise standards, and that you don't qualify for the exemption. So,
And so what would that noise standard be? I mean, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure when I looked it up, it was like 60 decibels, which is nearly what I'd speak at a normal volume.
So yeah, they are specified in the code at section 1720.050 are the exterior noise standards. And in residential districts, they're differentiated as between daytime and nighttime standards. But daytime, for example, in a residential zone would be 55 dBA. Nighttime, it drops to 50 dBA. And then there's temporary exceedances that are permitted. So to the extent you go over that 55 dBA for less than 30 minutes, that may be permissible under our code. So I think what the code and what code enforcement's most concerned with is an ongoing activity that would constitute sort of a prolonged disruption within a neighborhood during these specified hours. So I'm not trying to compel a result or guide the discussion. I just wanted to provide a little bit of background about the structure of the code and what I believe the aim of the municipal code is with respect to the noise requirements.
So my curiosity is, I mean, 60 decibels, again, is not that much. If I'm playing with my kids and I'm playing, you know, have a speaker out playing music out on my front porch, it's going to be over 60 decibels. That would technically violate the noise ordinance. But it just seems, you know, this exemption seems to be, as it relates to construction, not being done on Sundays and holidays. So that was why I said that, not just a general noise ordinance. It's just curious to me that the situation I am thinking of was somebody using an electric nail gun, which had no compressor going, nothing. You hear a pop every 30 seconds maybe when a nail gets driven into a board, and he got a citation for it. And it was shocking to me because I was literally in my house next door and I didn't even know he was working on his front lawn. Okay, so I don't know how code enforcement takes that or what can be done. Maybe you can guide me a little bit better on how these exemptions work and whether or not, you know, we can carve in an exemption that would include work being done. But I'll tell you, another neighbor of mine works on cars regularly, and his car is very loud. But nobody ever worries about it because, you know, he'll start the engine and it'll be done in, you know, a short period of time.
So I'll speak on behalf of code enforcement and our officers that are out in the community. They're not necessarily like targeting individuals that are creating noise or above noise standards. A lot of the issues that they respond to are because they are being, you know, requested to come out and make an assessment, and they'll gauge the noise against not just the language, but also their assessment of what type of activity is being performed. So if it's something that's, again, outside of these standards, they don't actually do a citation as the initial point. They'll do education first and what we call a notice of violation. And they'll seek to work with that individual if it's, let's just say, construction work, to ensure that that doesn't happen again before there is a citation issue. So the very first step is typically more of an educational approach. And again, our code enforcement, which we're at 7-day coverage now, specifically for weekends because of situations that may not be like your neighbor, but a lot of construction or contractual work that is being performed on mornings of Sundays where people, you know, quality of life is important for them. So that's ultimately the goal and the objective. Of course, if it's repeated action and if it's egregious in nature, then it progresses to a more rigorous and disciplinary course of action. But a lot of times it's trying to work with that individual or resident.
Can I clarify something real quick?
Mhm.
So I make sure I understand. When we're talking about the noise, we're talking about on what people are doing repair-wise or maintenance-wise and not parties or things like this. This is two separate, right?
Yeah, so with the construction or home maintenance activities, those are listed as exemptions to the general standards, whereas something like a noisy party or something along those lines wouldn't be subject to an exemption. It would just be bound by the standards in the code.
So when you talk about the decibel, Okay, so these are, our noise ordinance, or our noise code is decibel oriented, okay? Where on the property, there's a point at which you measure the noise level. You don't measure it at the source, the guy doing the work. You measure it at the property line of the property, or where's that, you know, where's, because I'm working in the house or something like that, where's the,
So per the code, it's measured at the property line or as received at, it's referred to as the affected property. So in a situation, if it was a neighbor, for example, making a complaint, you would come out and you would measure just from the property line. Now, if it's a house 2 doors down making the complaint, if you're getting a register there on indicating that the noise is exceeding that level, even though it's a couple property lines over, that would still qualify. But the most direct answer to your question is it's taken from the exterior property line.
do our code people, do they carry a meter with them
They do,
so they can measure it?
correct.
All right. And then, last question. Okay, so we have two different, we have a standard for the weekdays, okay, which includes Saturday for construction, repair, and that type of a thing. And it says, it just says noise sources associated with, the exemption is noise sources associated with construction. So is that inclusive of the decibel, or is that just total, any noise? It does have to,
Any-
it's, they can go above the decibel count, can't they, or can they?
Yes. If
For construction, so
it's
if,
between the hours of 8 AM and 7 AM on weekdays
yeah,
and Saturdays.
so if it's 55, let's just use 55, so if it's 55 decibels at the property line, and I've got a nail gun, or I got a skill saw, I got a, whatever I got, and it's putting out 90 decibels, I don't know any comparisons for decibels, so I'll just pick 90.
Yeah.
I don't know what 90 is, okay. They're allowed to do that between those hours, if it's, as long as it's construction related, correct?
Correct.
So you,
On
so they
weekdays
can,
or
they can
Saturdays.
exceed, yeah, so they're allowed to exceed our standards, provided it's associated with construction, repair, remodeling between these hours. And then likewise for, basically, so let's just say Sunday and holidays. I mean, there's an hour later for
Yeah.
Saturday, I don't know why, maybe, okay, but that's fine. But the main thing is, or at any time on Sundays or federal holidays. So there's no exception for Sunday then.
That's correct.
So in other words,
Federal
okay,
holidays.
yeah, just trying to get this clarified. So you can work on, you can do construction, repair, remodeling anytime after 7 AM up till 8 PM on weekdays and Saturdays. But you can't do it on Sunday or
Correct.
federal holidays.
You can, but not if it's exceeding the noise standards for that district.
Oh, okay, so you have
again,
to,
it may be
so
50, that may not
so
be
you may have, so you have to drop, so that doesn't stop you from working on your house or doing construction on Sunday if you want to. We're not saying you can't work
Correct.
on Sunday, you can do that, except that on Sunday you have to comply with the noise ordinance. So you're not precluded from doing any type of repair, it's just that you can't go past the 55 decibels, whatever that is.
That's right.
So if you're using a nail gun, and that is high, I don't know if it is or isn't, but if that one pop is higher than 55 decibels on a Sunday, then you would have to stop. And that's a repetitive noise, generally if you're doing a roof or, you know, pop, 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 whatever, okay, got that. But then we go to the other one, for noise associated with maintenance of real property. Yeah, I mean, I can see there's an overlap. I mean, that's you know, what's a repair, what's a maintenance? I mean, I think a repair is part of maintenance, and maintenance is part of repair. So I don't know if that needs to be tightened a little bit, or maybe just I don't know. I mean, I think the main thing is the noise. That's what everybody is after. I mean, that's the bottom line. And then, but like, maintenance are to me, would be like mowing your yard. If you got a leaf blower, you've got that type of a thing.
Yeah,
You're allowed to do that anytime, including Sunday. Just do it after 9 a.m. on Sunday and before 6, right?
yeah, and I think, so this ordinance initially dates back to 2006, so I'm not exactly sure what the intent was. But I think one distinction between maintenance and then the construction, repair, remodeling, and grading provisions may be whether or not a permit has been issued by the city, because certain construction activities, remodeling projects, et cetera, would require a building permit.
Right.
Whereas there are other activities that are probably best characterized as maintenance. You might be
Right.
power washing a house or
Right.
something that's not going to require a permit, but nonetheless would sort of fall within the second provision here.
But even grading your lawn, or, you know, regrading your, taking your lawn out, grading it and planting new sod would be covered under Part D, under the grading standard. But that's no permits required for that. So, you know, it just seems there's some vagueness and ambiguous terms here that I think, especially when it's, you know, being done by a homeowner and not a construction company. You know, I just have a problem with it. I like to do a lot of my projects myself, and I would 100% admit, I'm surprised I haven't been popped for this, because I've done a lot of repairs on my property on Sundays. I've luckily, I'm fortunate to be handy enough with, you know, my hands, and, you know, my entire front yard was almost done completely by me on Sundays. I work Monday through Friday. To deprive somebody of being able to redo, make their property look nicer, better, for the betterment of the entire neighborhood, and limiting his source to only working on Saturdays between these limited times, you know, I don't think is really what this is intended to do. So whether there was an exemption for, you know, homeowner performed work that was added to this, I think that could cure some of this. I get it. It's not, you know, we don't want a crew of 17 people redoing a roof on Sunday. We want to sleep in. We want to, you know, do whatever we want. That's what these were designed to do. I don't think these were designed for, you know, me working in my wood shop in my garage on Sunday afternoon.
Well, I don't think, this is about noise. It's not, I don't think it's about people working. I mean, it's a matter of generating the noise.
But if there's zero noise.
It's not
for
zero,
any-
it's
zero noise on Sundays for any construction, repair, remodeling, or grading of any real property, zero noise. So if I am doing any act of construction, unloading wood from my truck, that is an act of construction. I could be cited for it,
I don't believe so. It's no, it's.
100%.
I don't think there's a zero noise requirement. Again, I think that the only way it would be a violation of the code is if you're unloading wood and the noise associated with that violates these exterior standards.
Right, so 55 decibels is lower than what I'm speaking at right now. Unloading a pallet of wood or bricks or anything else, improving my property on a Sunday would violate, it would undoubtedly
Well,
violate.
unloading a pallet of bricks, are you gonna use a forklift, or are you taking them off one block at a time?
Even if I was laying them one block at a time and they were clinking together, that would technically be a consistent noise violation. It's not, you know, for me, it has to do more with what is the purpose of the noise ordinance, and I get it, the primary purpose is excessive noise. And, you know, to me, I can go around Los Alamitos and probably call code enforcement on 1,000 people on a Sunday for doing yard work or home or construction work that'll exceed the decibel line on their from their property line. You guys talked about, you know, your where's the decibel being read from? Is it right next door? Or is it from the source of the complaint. I find that hard to believe because, again, I was right next door and I didn't even know that he was working until I got a knock on my door saying, is this for real? So, you know, to me, I think there needs to be some clarity here and possibly an additional exemption. And I believe that, you know, work by an independent homeowner, you know, could conform to a noise sources associated with maintenance, real property, or construction by a homeowner between the hours on Sunday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I think that's a little bit more reasonable. You could limit it to no construction from a you know, crew of more than 3 persons. You can do it, you can carve this any way out you want. It's about looking at what the true purpose of the ordinance is. But I truly believe an exemption should be made for homeowners being able to work on their property by, you know, between the certain hours, 7 days a week.
What I'm kind of thinking is looking at the decibel and whether we look for something more realistic where people can do that. That's what I'm reading here, is that maybe we're too low. So to me, if 55 is all the way to the neighbor, then is that really that loud? I mean, I hear my neighbors because they don't put their hearing aids in. So, you know, and they don't. And she says, I'm not mad at him, I just didn't want to wear my hearing aids. I know that. But, you know, what is too loud without infringing on other people's rights as well? And that's what we should really be looking at. It doesn't say we can't do things on the weekend. It doesn't really totally confine us. It does protect us from my neighbor deciding to build an ADU on Sunday, and there is some protection there. So we do have to be careful. We do want to keep some clarity in this. But I do think we need to look at a balance of what is a reasonable decibel to do things at your house. Whether you're working in your garage, you should be able to do it on the weekends without having people call code enforcement for you enjoying, whether you're just doing a hobby or whatnot. And I agree with that. There should be some type of balance.
Well, I guess,
Tom, when you got the, because all the other cities are very similar to what we have, do you know what their, I know nothing about the decibels, so I'm just taking his word for it that 55 is like normal speaking. Do you know what their decibel limit
Yeah,
is?
it's like Stanton and a couple of others, they have the same decibel chart we do.
Okay.
The decibel charts have been calculated by sound companies that do that. And we have like a drawing, I should have probably given it to you, of what each level is kind of equivalent to, like a vacuum cleaner talking, cars on traffic. For instance, Catella is 75 decibels normally, and talking is about 55.
Conversation.
So,
60.
yeah. Yeah, is that the picture I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
This one is at normal conversation, 60 dBA. Quiet is 50 dBA. 55 is quiet. I mean, it's,
yeah.
So I'd like to comment and say that we can make a motion to bring this at our next meeting to discuss, like you've mentioned, corrections of what might be considered vague, or as you stated, possibly looking at our decibel levels and comparing it apples to apples with other cities of what it would be most applicable. But, you know, I do feel that there is going to be a standard of quality of life that we'd have to upkeep, because objectively, everyone's gonna have their own version of what quality of life, someone working on their vehicle, someone performing work on a day off, versus other people that might be happy with just sleeping in. So I think it just depends on the individual, but we do want to make sure that we kind of keep that in mind as we proceed.
and I think that's what my point was, is not that I don't think it should just be all out, we're allowed to do whatever we want, whenever we want. You know, some of the other cities have it, you know, noise ordinances, maintenance and things, they extended the hours until 9 a.m., can't start till 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday or federal holidays. You know, having a shortened period is fine, even if it was 10 to 4. But but limiting it 100% essentially is the problem I have, and the problem I don't, and what I don't understand, because it is a noise ordinance, and these are exemptions, so these are things that don't need to follow a normal noise ordinance between these certain times. So the limitation that I really am looking for, or what I would put a motion out for, would be to limit it to crews of two or less people. Homeowner must be present, something along those lines, between specific hours, and we could be as specific as we want. I just don't think limiting a homeowner to be able to do work on his property, his or her property, at any during a weekend. I mean, I probably violated this when I hung my Christmas lights up, banging nails into the fascia. It just, that to me is what I think we should take a look at extending here, not necessarily, making it a complete all or nothing. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. But to essentially bottleneck somebody into only being able to do any repair work or construction work on their property on Saturdays and not Sundays is hard for me to grapple with. Especially because I don't think that was necessarily the intent, especially since Tom had mentioned that we have no indication as when this was actually done. It was just a form driven, probably on the standard form when the city was incorporated. Hey, we're gonna throw this one in here because that's what everybody's using. So I think as a city, we can also look at, okay, well, how can we make this better for our people as well? Another survey.
Well, I will just say that I see the distinction between construction and repair, between D and E, and it doesn't preclude anybody from doing any work. I guess it just forces everybody to be a little considerate, of their neighbors and that type of a thing, before they, I think to change it, I think we're just opening a bucket of worms if we, I mean, you can still, well, just mowing your yard. If you got a lawnmower out there, you're well above 55 decibels. And you can do it, you can do that on Sunday, you can take care of your property on Sunday. But if you're gonna, I would just say if you're gonna, if you're gonna create, if you're doing grading, I mean, you can still do it. You just got to keep the level below the limit. And it's going to be, I mean, I don't know, I guess if you okay, and this will apply to all the zones. So now we get into apartments, we get into, I manage property, and, the properties are, you've got 5-foot setbacks on each side on some of these, or 10 feet. And somebody on Sunday decides they want to go ahead and I don't know, start some construction on Sunday. You're gonna have complaints coming out the ears from the tenants and everybody else, because this applies, citywide. And it doesn't preclude anybody from doing maintenance or building on their property. It's just that it's limited or prohibited depending on, from a noise point of view, on Saturdays and Sundays, a little, or a federal holiday. I mean,
But if I, as a homeowner, and I have my tenant that's on Farquhar, she asked me to come replace a window, and my only day to do it was Sunday. And I don't want to pay somebody $700 to do it because I could do it myself.
Okay.
I can't do it on Sunday. I would make too much noise because it's a repair. It would be in violation
Well-
of this ordinance. That's my thing. It's a homeowner. As a homeowner, I think that's where my exemption would take place, is including.
I believe you would be okay.
Nope.
You're doing a maintenance on your
No, that would be
property
a repair.
on Sunday or a federal holiday.
That would be construction repair.
Window would have to require a building permit.
You know,
You need a permit, yeah.
Yeah, have to have a building permit to replace a
Yeah.
window.
so, I mean, that's what I'm talking about, and if it's done, that's why I think a homeowner exemption might be applicable here. And that's where we can limit it to, you know, a crew of one or two or less persons,
I thought we were doing,
you
the
know,
homeowner doing it.
which one would have to be the homeowner, is what I'm saying. So if I have me and a friend, you know, helping me fix my fence on a Sunday, that, you know, it shouldn't be a violation. You should be able to fix your fence.
How many violations have we had regarding the noise on Sundays?
So I would have to look at our reports, but on average, our code enforcement team addresses at least anywhere from 2 to 5 on a weekly basis.
On a
Every Sunday?
Correct.
I
Yeah.
didn't even know you guys worked on Sunday.
Yep. Yeah, we're out there. Not we, but our code enforcement. So
Yeah.
it's, again, it's on the consensus that it's being reported by an individual reporting party, as we call it. So again, not actively pursuing people and trying to catch them in the act, but ultimately reporting to complaints.
And is it based mostly on the decibel that the complaint is being based?
It's a combination of the noise and also the type of work. And a lot of times it's the type of work. It's contractual services that are being performed. And it's not necessarily always a homeowner. I know in your situation, you're describing that. But a lot of the complaints by residents come because they see a construction crew working on rebuilding a home. You mentioned ADU, that's pretty common. So it's that type of activity that will draw people's concerns.
Would it be possible to kind of do a little 6-month maybe look to see what type of problems or violations we've had and how many are basically the noise being how loud it was and the type? Just group them a little bit, don't get too detailed, but so that we know whether it's a homeowner that was just doing some work versus a crew coming in to do some work, and that we could have some kind of idea that direction. And decibel-wise, was it above 110, 200 really loud, or was it just a little bit louder than people talking? I mean, that does bother me a little if our decibel is so low that it makes it impossible to do anything. I think that would be worth addressing to be something reasonable. Because I would hate to think that every code enforcement had to go out because somebody had a hammer that they were just nailing something. That's getting a little far-fetched.
And
But the other end is to find something that's a balance and reasonable so that we have that ability to allow leeway with the homeowner without being too tight.
sure, so just so that I'm clear, you're talking about a 6-month review of the past 6
Just
months?
look at some of
or
the-
upcoming 6 months?
Just look at the last 6 months to
Okay.
see how many of these violations were grouped into a large type of work that's being done versus maybe just a homeowner and mostly a little late, a noise or something.
We can certainly do
Kind of
that.
idea.
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, we can certainly do that, and also, you know, I can say with confidence that our code enforcement isn't out there to incriminate people that
Oh,
are
I know
just
that.
doing the minor stuff, and there is a subjectivity to it, right?
Yes.
And as our city attorney explained, there's going to be a consistency of such activity that has to be done, but we can certainly look at the comparisons of the type of work versus the decibel readings, and ultimately, whether it was a homeowner versus contractual, that's absolutely something that we can do, because we do have methods to research that and provide that analysis. But I can confidently say that they're not going to be out there just
No, I know they
knocking on
don't.
someone's door and saying,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I heard you
most
guys
of these-
talking out loud.
I think it'd be interesting too to see the complaint source too. You know, if it logged that, is it one person doing 80% of the complaints kind of a thing? Or is it pretty much singular, different people complaining too? It'd be interesting if you have that data.
Yeah, we tend to get anonymous reports. We also get actual, but I'm not sure if I could.
Okay.
put
We
that
don't
out there,
need the
but,
name.
Yeah.
No, not the name, I'm just saying, I was wondering if it's the same person.
Complainer number one
If
has
it's-
30
Yeah,
complaints.
if it's the same, well, if it's the same
Yeah.
person complaining about going around looking for
Right.
things, just to
Yeah,
complain.
as our Commissioner Gross mentioned, we can definitely look at the type of activity and,
I'd be curious I like the idea of the decibel level. I mean, if we can get examples of what, I don't know, use a nail gun. I mean, whatever. I mean, what is that decibel? What is the decibel level on a, I don't know.
Well, and next month,
on a
could you
lawn-
bring
on a
in one of
lawnmower.
those?
You know, on a lawn, I mean, just,
The-
you know, so if.
No, the decibel thing, so that, you know,
Well,
A
Gary.
decibel reader.
Yeah, we can bring it.
yeah.
We'll measure everyone's conversation level.
yeah, how bad are we out here? So, should we just continue this?
Let's bring a nail gun
Yeah.
and fix the place.
I'd also like you to include your systematic way of enforcement. How are the people handing out the citations? If you can provide examples as to, what level meters they're utilizing, how long does the work have to be continuing for them to actually issue a notice violation or citation? Because I'd like to see what their SOPs are for enforcement. Where things are read, how far away they're standing from the source, that sort of thing, because that will make a big difference as to, and I don't know if they track all that in their reports, but if you're going to be going back 6 months, but I'd like to see what the SOPs are.
We can also discuss about bringing out one of our officers to the next meeting, because
Okay.
ultimately that would be directly the source of the activity, their observations. Of course, we can read and interpret what is being reported, but ultimately, I think if you have the opportunity to hear from one of our officers that are out there, that would absolutely paint a better picture as well.
Make a motion to continue this to the next meeting?
I'll second it.
Yeah,
Is that
well,
enough
I'd like
time? Is that
to,
enough time?
we want to add to the motion, though, we want to add
We need
the
s-
2 points of action, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, I want to make sure I'm clear on what we're bringing next month. So we're talking about bringing a decibel reader? Okay.
Yes.
Examples of the,
Yes.
like different
Yes.
equipment. I'm sure if you dig deep enough, I mean, they probably have the decibels at so many feet. I mean, if somebody's doing work and they're standing right on their property line, and you're right there on the property line, you're 6
Bless you.
inches away from the guy, versus, if you're on top of a roof and you're 30 feet away or 40 feet away, you could be 80 decibels on the roof or 60 or 70 on the roof, but only 40 at the property line.
Correct.
So, I mean, the complaint's bogus. But if it's all gonna be a function of, I guess it's a graph, right?
Yeah.
Chair Lowe, could I interject
Sure.
for a moment? Okay, there is an app that you can get on your phone for decibel level. So for fun, if you want to just do it at home, download the app and look and see what it is.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
we
the
have
example I
a
used.
professional machine, of course,
That was-
Yeah.
be
on
fun.
your phone, you can just, check.
That's what I said last meeting. I used the app on my phone, and the fan from an electric car was raising 55 decibels, which was exceeding an electric car fan.
I'm worried about my electric
So-
leaf blower, because I'm out there every day.
So yeah, the decibel meter,
The device.
SOPs,
And a summary of the last 6 months.
and then the summary, I think, would help, and as much information as you can include on that. I mean, I don't know how far your reports go, so, and what you can decipher from those reports, but
Okay. So you just need a motion.
Yeah, I think we can move forward with just a motion to continue, and then based on the
You have to
input
do
you've
that.
all provided to staff, we'll know what to bring back for the next
Make that
conversation.
motion.
Okay,
second,
Art made the motion. Who would like to make the second?
second,
I'll second.
either way.
I'm going to say Gross makes a second. And then all those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay. So, items from the Development Services Department.
Yes, I'll go ahead and provide some updates here. So again, just a reminder that our short-term rental survey is out, and it is live through the end of July. So if you haven't participated in the survey or have neighbors that would like to do it on a Sunday without any ramifications, fill out the survey on a Sunday.
As long as their phone
That was a
isn't
good
too
one.
loud.
Careful how you're typing. But on a serious note, it's been well received. Mr. Oliver has indicated there's been 300+ surveys performed, results received. So without getting into the details of what the results show, we'll allow through the end of July. And yeah, just a reminder on that. 3rd of July is our city event. As you know from past years, it's been held on the 4th of July, so this will be the first year where it will be held on the 3rd of July at the base. So please feel free to invite friends, neighbors, family members to attend. Sure to be a fun time. We have polos that we'd like for you to each try on. And the intent is for you to select the right size and hopefully snap a new picture for us to have on our city website, aiming about September. So we would like to have polos are here for you to try on, and then we'll make sure that some of our members that aren't here tonight will have an opportunity to try them on at the next month meeting, and so in hopes that we can have everything up for September. And then lastly, in association to the 4th of July, we have our Safe and Sane fireworks stands that are going to be popping up soon on July 1st through the 4th, with sales taking place 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. And as if you don't recall, that was approved through the City Council to conduct the sale of legal fireworks in observation that it will help the Los Alamitos Community Foundation generate funds that will then come back to the community for programs and projects. But it also serves as a way to control the type of sale of fireworks that occurs in the city.
How many stands are there?
There's 2. So
I saw the one at Vaughn's.
correct, that's one location, and the other location is at the DeVita Shopping Center off of Catella. Yeah, and so again, they've been propping up this week and intending to open up on July 1st through the 4th.
This is the first year we've done it, right? In a long, long
Since I was a
time.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And those are going to be, not to get into deep here, but I'm assuming those are legal to be done, yeah.
They're legal.
On the 4th of July only.
No, so technically, if someone wants to buy it on the 1st of July and they want to pop fireworks that day because they get too excited, that's fine.
Okay.
But again,
How about throughout the course of the year?
again, conforming to our noise ordinances,
Yeah,
our city.
Way over 55.
Yeah, but the good news is, yeah, the sale of these fireworks is intended to curb the type of activity that is happening. They're not going into the air. So if you see fireworks in your residence, in Los Alamitos, I might want to stress that, in the city of Los Alamitos, those are illegal if they're popping up. Outside of the ones that are on the base, illegal fireworks. These do not go in the air. So they're technically considered safe and legal.
They've started already.
Yes.
I've been hearing them at
I had
night.
I had a roof fire from a bottle rocket
Mhm.
on an apartment building over on, probably was on Howard.
In 1962.
About 1984.
Stand correct.
That's good.
There's a great story behind it.
I bet, but we are at commissioner reports, so.
Oh, I'm not going to.
I want to commend the city for the summer concert series that's been going on. My office is right there, and I've enjoyed the last couple Thursdays of the bands playing and seeing everybody, especially all the kids, running around with the bounce houses. You guys have done a really good job on that, and I think the Beatles are playing tomorrow night, the Beatle cover band, so that'll be awesome. So I want to say, thanks to who puts that on, Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, so I'll be happy
Great
to
job.
share that information to them, and thank you for mentioning that. So it is taking place Thursday, but it won't take place next Thursday because of the week
Right.
of the 4th of July, so.
So, but yeah, it's been going really good. I've been working, and I just leave my door propped open, and I listen to it, so it's been good.
Are you on the second floor up there?
Yeah,
You guys didn't donate any money to the Pink Patch Project. I'm coming after
you
you.
can come after me. Oh, I actually have an additional question concerning my building. Or a question. Who can I talk to about regular patrols going through that area?
So if it's a police presence, we can communicate with our watch commander,
Okay.
and what type of patrol are you referring?
A homeless person lives in our elevator every day. I kick him out every day. and I know it's private land, so I've already talked to my landlord about private security and all that. But there's also just, I'm not gonna say it on the record, some inappropriate activity in the stairwell. And just, even just shining a light, patrolling, making, presence known, I think would be a good option. I see them come down my street every once in a while, so I know they're patrolling, but I've never, and I'm not out there staring at it, but I think a presence in that neighborhood would be good. I know that we've had some break-ins and stuff on property, so.
Yeah, feel free to email me any of these concerns, and I'd be happy to funnel that through our code enforcement. There is a homelessness liaison in the city,
Okay.
and it's pushed through PD. And so we typically send that over to PD, but code enforcement has some sort of involvement in with that as well.
Perfect,
So
thanks.
Anybody else?
Tomorrow night, Pink Patch Project will be over on Pine Street. Look for me with pink hair. You won't miss me, I guarantee you. I have bright pink hair, and we're raising money for, the Pink Patch Project is through the police department, and they have the police logo in pink for breast cancer. And what they do is we're trying to raise money to give to 1 to 2 women in Los Alamitos who have been breast cancer survivors, and something for them to go out and do something for themselves or with their family that's not related to their chemo treatment, paying bills, or other things, but something for them. And considering that half of my friends passed away from breast cancer, I am very adamant about getting this out there and helping. So when you see me with pink hair, either donate money to it, please, or buy a patch or buy a challenge coin or something, please. And then be safe for the 4th of July, because I know what it looks like in the ER.
Burns this year.
Yep.
Okay.
I have. Okay, let's see. I'm a little upset, or a lot less than I was before I talked to Ron. And so when I'm done, I'm going to ask him for a little bit of an update. But because this kind of comes back on this commission a little bit. It's regarding our zone change on Lamson and the inclusion of that property on Lamson in our housing element. And there's been, I've watched the Next Door Neighbor app, that type of a thing, plus in the News Enterprise. There's been some, I don't want to say allegations, but I would say some unwarranted criticism and inference and innuendo of impropriety on the part of the staff and a part of the council with respect to the veracity of the information that is in our housing element regarding the number of units that we're mandated to have versus these allegations of, quote, gravy, that was, I believe the term was used to in an email or a letter from our consultant to the people at the state regarding a compliance with a no net loss limit law, which really is a law. The way it was phrased didn't look like a law, but anyway. And so intimating that staff misled us, and by extension, we pass it on up the line and is misleading to the council, that there's something like 1,200 or 1,300 units, that we are going to be, listing as part of the housing element that we're going to come up with instead of the 700, and I don't know, 6939, whatever that number was. And that was played on this Neighbor Next Door website, and then again, I saw it in the News Enterprise. And, at first I was taken aback because I'm going, well, what's going on here? I mean, and so I did a little research. It took me 2 minutes on my search engine to bring up no net limit law. What is this all about, California? And that actually is a law. and that requires, is mandated, the city to show alternate sites that are not part of the mandated amount of 769. And so it was kind of misleading. The person who wrote the article took that information, either didn't bother to research it, just blanket said that, we were misled, and then launches into some inferences, and I'll just say inference and innuendo. I don't know how else to place it as, trying to turn that into the staff being intentionally misleading, and then going into the council, then et cetera. So I would like, if we could get an update, I mean, if we're on, I don't know, if we could open it up again for the staff comments. If you, either one can give or Tom, somebody give us an update as to where this is at. I mean, just, I don't know, that's what torqued me, and you can go from there.
I'll take that. Good evening, Chair Lowe and members of the commission. So unfortunately, I can't get into too much detail because of Brown Act violations. But Commissioner DeBolt, you said it correctly, is we're not out here as a staff and our consultant as well to mislead the public. What we put in our housing element is required by the state of California, which was, again, approximately 767 units, right? 760 something approximately. But again, with the no net limit law plus the zoning, right? You have to understand, I just give you one example, that the Lamson site is zoned at an R3 zone. And right now, their density is on the lower end. And when we zone something, there's a minimum and a maximum, right? So again, Tom will remind me, I think the R3 zone is like a 20 min and a 25 max cap per acre. So again, just a simple math, if you have 10 acres, you can minimally put 220 times 10, 200 units, or you could put a max of 250 units, okay? But in our inventory site, let's, again, using an example, we would have put there and said we put 205 units in there. But again, the zoning does say that you could put 250. But at the end of the day, we put the inventory site in our arena. The state of California Housing, HCD, has accepted that. And let's say a developer did come in and said, you know what, we don't want to put 205. Again, using my example, we want to put 245. Again, that submittal will come before the planning commission, who are members of the community, and ultimately also get presented to city council, who are members of the community, to whether to accept that from the developer or say no and keep it at what we put as our inventory site. So I'm gonna just kind of keep it at that. But again, our goal here is to, again, according to what the state has mandated for us, is to plan for 767 or 69 units.
Can you touch on that no limit law and what that part means with respect to the additional units that were referenced in these articles, which I feel is misleading at a minimum?
Yeah, I can provide a brief explanation of that. So as we've said, we had a arena allocation of 769 residential units that we have to plan for during this next housing cycle. And what the state looks for is that there's actually a reasonable probability that those units will be developed. So when they're looking at our inventory of sites, they're looking at the zoning densities that are permitted, and they're trying to determine if what we're telling them is accurate, that we could actually get to 769. A lot of other cities have faced problems because they'll put, they'll allocate units to a golf course or something like that. The state will say, well, you're giving us numbers, but we all know there's not a reasonable probability that this will actually be developed. So the state does take a hard look at the inventory of sites. We have to plan for 769, but there's a small buffer built into that number, because if a development comes forward that we've allocated, let's say, using just the easy numbers again, we've said there could be 205 units there, and a development's ultimately approved that has 195, the no net loss law says we have to show that our existing inventory aside from that site is capable of accommodating the units we've lost on that parcel. So that's the concept of no net loss, is that we have to maintain an envelope that's capable of reaching that 769 number throughout the planning process. So that's why there's a small margin or buffer built into those numbers. First is to show the state that there's a reasonable probability that we can hit that number. And then there has to be a small buffer again to show that if we underdevelop on some of the inventory sites, we can nevertheless accommodate our total RENA number through use of other opportunity sites that have been identified.
And you list those opportunity sites, those other sites. And you're required to list those other sites.
Correct.
So this, I saw this, and I actually sent it to Tom, that same article saying, look out at the next council meeting. So it's my understanding, because when I read it, I was shocked, because it said 1,200 something. So it sounds to me like, based on your no net loss, basically this person, whoever it was, said, okay, we have, 30 acres, 20 on each acre, that's 1,200, and my math is totally off there, but we have 1,200 units available. They're lying to you. But we're actually saying, no, we're not. We're only doing 769, but if we wanted to max out everything, it can go as high as. Is that where that number?
I think, I don't know that we can go too much further into this because it hasn't been
Right.
noticed as a Brown
Right.
Act discussion to be had this evening. But based on the questions we're receiving, we could certainly come back at a future meeting and just present to you the chart that was included in the general plan. And as we've done elsewhere, we could explain what those numbers mean. And I'll tell you, there was this 1,200 number that was referenced in some press coverage and so forth, that I'm discussing a buffer. The buffer we planned for was not to go to 1,200. That 1,200 number is looking at maximum potential development if everything was maxed out to the ultimate permitted densities, which is not, again, the realistic probability that that would occur. And then comments that were made with respect to gravy and so forth were actually referencing sites that had been included in a previous housing element update that had not yet been developed with housing. But because they are identified in the prior cycle, they can't be allocated toward this cycle's 769. So I think the context of that email was, and if I'm mischaracterizing this, please correct me, but I think the context of that email, if it's read in its entirety, is saying, yeah, there are those other sites that were looked at in the prior cycle, and if those are developed with affordable housing during this cycle, that's a bonus, that's a surplus, right? Because that would be what had been planned for before but hadn't been built out, in addition to what we now have to plan for during this cycle.
Okay.
So,
Makes sense.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
Okay, anybody else? Then I will adjourn the meeting until the next scheduled planning commission meeting.
I've gotten a lot of questions on that, so that was a good explanation.
Yeah.